Upadhyay. Two stories that we are tracking right here on this show. Story number one is this constantly changing medication. Now we understand that science, that too, as far as treating a novel coronavirus is concerned, is an evolutionary process. But then, first there was hydroxychloroquine, then there was ivermectin, then plasma, and now the latest, the WHO basically saying that remdesivir is not an effective medicine in fighting COVID-19. So then the most important question is COVID treatment one giant medical experiment on all of us, which has been unleashed, because we are basically trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But what will be the consequences of this giant medical experiment? We are going to put that to a short discussion. Also on the show, in West Bengal, there are no DMs for the PM. It seems that a fresh bout of pandemic politics is being played in the state, but who's playing this politics? Is it Mamata Banerjee, who refused her district magistrate from North 24 Paraganas to speak in front of the Prime Minister, to speak with the Prime Minister when he wanted to speak to DMs? Or is it pandemic politics on the part of the Prime Minister and the centre to insist that he would rather speak to the district magistrates than speak to the elected Chief Minister? Both sides of this political divide square off in a political debate in just a short moment. Let's first get you the latest updates as far as remdesivir is concerned. What has the WHO done? Well, let's go full frame to these graphics. The World Health Organization has removed remdesivir from the list of COVID medicines. They've suspended, and they say in their statement, which will be on your screen right now, suspended Gilead Sciences antiviral drug remdesivir, which was touted as COVID treatment, from pre-qualification list. The WHO spokesperson has told agencies that suspension is a signal to countries that WHO, in compliance with the treatment guidelines, does not recommend countries procure the drug for COVID. Now remember, India has been procuring extensively and also ramped up production. So at a time like this, what do we do? Earlier, the WHO had warned that remdesivir should not be used to treat COVID patients no matter how ill they are, as there is no evidence that it works. But what all COVID treatment has been discontinued as of this moment? Let's put that also on screen. So there is remdesivir, then there is plasma therapy, all of which happened just this week, and then last year hydroxychloroquine, which does not work. So then obviously we're forced to ask this question: are we experimenting with these drugs? And I mean, that's exactly how you identify and find that what drug works and what doesn't. But can we, or should we be launching a massive national, international COVID medical experiment and then rolling it back? Because we know that each medicine has its side effects as well. So why are we doing this? Let me now put this to a discussion very quickly. We have Siddhant Chadda. He's a former banker. His father passed away due to COVID. He's going to share his experiences in just a short moment. Dr. Vikas Maurya, pulmonologist, Director, Head Pulmonology of the Fortis Hospital. Thank you very much. Dr. Shyam Krishnan, Consultant Pulmonologist at the Calcutta Medical Research Institute in Kolkata. And Dr. Boronali Datta, Director, Respiratory Medicine, Medanta, the Medicity. Thank you very much. Mr. Chadda, we'll begin with you first. You know, when the WHO says that remdesivir, we're taking it off the list because it doesn't seem to work. You know, how does it feel when something like this happens, especially when just a month ago or just a few days ago, people were running pillar to post, helter-skelter, buying remdesivir in black at 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees per dose, getting fake remdesivir just to save a life because it was being projected and was being seen as a life-saving drug.
True. So, see, I believe everyone in their power will do whatever the doctor will ask me to do, you know. So, for my father, if I have to save his life and the doctor asks me, "Can you please arrange remdesivir?" I had bought it in black as well my father passed away unfortunately on 28th of April, so about 20 days back, and up till last week also it was not available. I still have family members who are fighting this war with COVID. So essentially we don't really know what works and what not works, and so it is not it should not be me who should be experimenting with drugs to save someone's lives, you know. So if I believe in the last year a lot of so in the last year alone, I believe plenty of research would have been done, but still, you know, we've not come to a conclusion. So I had also tested COVID positive. I was you know, taking ivermectin myself. So it is anyone's guess. We are just you know, working on guesswork, what medicine to take and what not to take. And unfortunately, we don't know what are the repercussions and you know, the side effects of all these medicines.
Correct. Dr. Maurya, is it okay to have, I mean, the many people who ran from here to there to procure remdesivir are now asking that are we conducting some sort of a mega medical experiment as far as treating COVID is concerned? What would you say?
Yeah, I think what we have to understand is the fact that this pandemic started, we didn't have any of the drugs available. And you know, it started with, you know, then drugs, then remdesivir came over as a repurposed medication. It was used in other.
Okay, Dr. Maurya, I'm going to have to come back to you. There seems to be a slight audio issue. We're going to fix that and come back. Dr. Krishnan, would you like to take that one? You know, these concerns among people that what was perhaps that magic drug, wonder drug, though the government on its part kept saying that this is not a wonder drug. They kept saying it, but doctors kept prescribing it, and that's why people started running. As you just heard Mr. Chadda saying that if I have to do something to save my father's life, I will. But the point is, now increasingly there are more and more and more of these medicines that are proving to be ineffective. Plasma therapy is not working. So is this some sort of a giant experiment?
So what I feel is it's not an experiment, I would say. It will be too harsh to call it an experiment. You know, last year when the COVID virus ambushed us, you know, as medical fraternity, we were kind of grappling in the dark as to what works, what doesn't work. So there were a lot of anecdotal evidence. There were a lot of in vitro studies which did demonstrate all the drugs which you mentioned had some, you know, modicum of effect in stalling this replication of the virus or, you know, in halting the progress. But they did not translate well into, you know, treatment protocols or, you know, effective treatment. In case of remdesivir, what I have noticed over the past 1.5 years of treating COVID patients is that, you know, like other studies have also demonstrated that there is a narrow window where you need to choose your patients carefully. So if your patient is hypoxic, that too within, you know, the 10 to 12 day period, if he's within that period, if he gets hypoxic, that is, he requires, you know, just starts to get low oxygen saturation and he starts to require oxygen, supplemental oxygen, that is the best time. If he crosses the 8 to 10 liter threshold of oxygen requirement, then you're basically too late. So this small cohort of patients, what we have observed is the one who responds probably to remdesivir. So, but that is definitely a small cohort of patients. But I feel, so what I feel is I would rather pick and choose my patients wisely, depending on who would respond to remdesivir. Regarding the experiment you were telling, yes, the other therapies, HCQS, ivermectin, plasma, everything did not show any kind of benefit. But at the end of the day, like, you know, there is pressure on us, there is pressure on doctors from the patients, relatives, there is pressure to save lives. So when you're pushed against a wall, when you have nothing else, you would definitely try something, even if it's worth a try. So I feel that's what has been the, you know, the management the way people, the medical fraternity has taken management
but
of
then you
COVID.
know what, Dr. Krishnan, unfortunately what happens is that every medicine will have a side effect. For instance, this overuse of steroids now, Dr. Datta is now also with us, Dr. Varunali Datta. Dr. Datta, you know, one of the side effects of using steroids is the black fungus. That is a side effect because of the manner in which it was used. But Dr. Datta, you know, the larger point is, don't you think that right now we're groping in the dark? We're basically trying out some medicine, as Dr. Krishnan was saying, to somehow save lives and start that medication fast. In fact, a lot of people are self-prescribing. I saw this in the first wave also, where people would take someone else's prescription and just start the drug early so that they don't land up in a hospital. Do you think this is also a big problem?
You're absolutely right. I mean, the biggest problem we are facing is that there is no cure. There is no treatment for COVID. You know, now coming to steroids, which you pointed out, steroids is probably the only medicine for which there was some scientific evidence that it works. And of course, given at the right time by people who know what they're doing for the right indications, it can be life-saving. But when it is overused, abused, and as you say, self-prescribed by many, obviously it can lead on to a lot of dangerous situations like the black fungus that we are seeing at the moment. For any medical treatment, successful medical treatment, scientific methodology rests on something called randomized controlled trials. Now, in the setting of a pandemic, that is extremely difficult to perform because, you know, you're losing lives. So to actually do research and science in a robust manner is difficult. So, you know, there have been multiple trials. People are grabbing at whatever medication they can, and unfortunately, nothing is working. So that is where things stand. And almost we know what's not working. We don't have anything that is working apart from steroids, as it were.
Okay, Dr. Maurya, I believe, is now back with us. Dr. Maurya, that all important question which a lot of people ask, I've been seeing ever since this news came out, a lot of people who ran from pillar to post to procure that remdesivir drug are now basically saying that what are we? Are we lab rats? Are we guinea pigs? Is this like a giant medical experiment? What would you say to them?
See, as I said, you know, last year when we started with remdesivir, I mean, the pandemic started, we have, you know, only few drugs which were available. And, you know, the remdesivir came as one of the repurposed medications to be used in the coronavirus. So, you know, it's not that it was some experiment was going on. It was basically on the basis of current evidence at that point of time. It was being used in those patients. And then we have, you know, multiple trials. We have Act 1 trials. We have then trials done in the China, then trials done as a solidarity trials done by the WHO. And all trials, when they were combined and shown that, you know, it was 7,000 patients or so, that it was not benefiting in the terms of mortality in these COVID patients. So I think, but it has shown something like, for example, patients who were on oxygen and who were with coronavirus disease hospitalized, was giving some benefit of early recovery in these patients. So that was the data which was available at that point of time. It was being used. And also in pandemic, you don't have, you know, so much time to research and have, you know, so much of data available. So whatever the current evidence at that point of time, it is being used. So now what we have data that...
No, but then this is applicable to the drugs that we are approving even now or giving emergency use authorization even now. For instance, the DRDO's drug or any other drug, the requisite study that is required has obviously been short-circuited given the problem that we have at hand.
See, at the moment, you know, for example, I'll just give an example of a steroid. You know, as I said earlier also by another panelist also, that, you know, it's a drug which is working the most at the moment is steroid. And it should be used, you know, with a very careful, you know, indication in these patients. It should not be overused. Its duration, its dosing, its timing is done by the, you know, doctor, you know, with the precautions in these patients. Now, similarly, when we have good drugs coming on, for example, 2DG or some other drugs like the baricitinib or like you have tocilizumab. These drugs are to be used in the patients in a very small subset of patients with the benefit has been shown in few of the patients, few subset of the patients. So I think similarly the 2DG which has been shown.
Okay,
I don't have much of the data available with this, but I think we need more data about 2DG with the phase-2 phase 3 trials, and so that we can be using in these patients.
Dr. Datta, see the point very simply is this. While we do understand, and I admire your honesty where you said there is no drug, there is no medication, certified medication for the coronavirus. It's a novel coronavirus. But having said that, see, for instance, black fungus. It's not like diabetes patients are only there in this country. But why is it that we have an alarmingly high number of black fungus cases? Does that have to do with this too much randomization as far as treatment is concerned for COVID?
So definitely, I mean, see, in a pandemic situation where you have, lakhs of people coming down with it. I mean, normally, steroid use would be in a very limited number of people, whereas now you have lakhs of people on steroids. People in India have high incidence of diabetes. The steroids aggravate the diabetes, worsen diabetes control. And so in poorly controlled diabetes, people who've been, and of course, steroids are being overused at the moment, are being used, not judiciously at all, both by, people themselves, by physicians outside, because that is the one thing that has been shown to have some benefit. So I think it's become like a melting pot of having high use steroids, poorly controlled diabetes, prolonged use steroids, and then the people are coming down with, the problems of
deadly concoction. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Datta, Dr. Krishnan, Dr. Maurya, as well as Siddhant, let's just hope that we have a medicine soon, because these experiments obviously are with the intention to save lives, but there is a side effect, as always is with medication. Thank you very much. Let's move on now to story number 2, where there is a war, again a political war in West Bengal, this time over who speaks to the Prime Minister. Let's first listen in to what Ravi Shankar Prasad had to say and that what Mamata Banerjee said, and then play out this discussion that we had.
It was just a casual super flock meeting. We, the chief ministers, are feeling insulted and humiliated. And we are astonished to see that Prime Minister called a meeting and invited the chief ministers, and all the chief ministers were sitting just like puppet. Nobody is allowed to speak. The country is facing very critical, passing through a very critical juncture, where Prime Minister is very casual.
ममता बनर्जी जी जो बंगाल की मुख्यमंत्री हैं, आज उनका आचरण बहुत ही अशोभनीय रहा है। उन्होंने पूरी मीटिंग को एक प्रकार से डिरेल करने की कोशिश की, तो मीटिंग सफल ही नहीं हो। आज भी ममता जी ने अपने प्रदेश के डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट थे 24 परगना जिले के, उनको बोलने नहीं दिया, कहा कि डीएम क्या जानते हैं, मैं जानती हूं उनसे अधिक।
With facts as to what exactly has happened. Riju Datta, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, is now with us. Mr. Datta, let me start by asking you this question. Is really protocol on the top of the mind of Mamata Banerjee, that she was not allowed to speak, and a district magistrate would have spoken, and that's why he was not allowed to speak, whereas the issues were different, this and that. Mr. Riju Datta, really, should protocols be the priority right now?
See, Sanketji, I will categorically tell you, a district magistrate, in a state like West Bengal, there are more than 20 districts. So one district magistrate speaking, I think the CM being present there, she could have spoke about the entire state, not just one particular district. And we are not facing this pandemic for the first time. We have faced it before, last year. And what happened? How did we counter the pandemic at that time? We had severe lockdowns, and then we did Thali Bajana, Diya Jalana, and lastly Utsav Manana. So now when it has gone out of hand, I think the Prime Minister and the central government should have a consensus with all the state CMs, and when the CMs are present, I think they should be allowed to speak. They know about the entire state, the situation of the state.
Mr. Datta, can I ask you a question? You tell me, see, if you put to debate the fact that there was a certain amount of futility in this exercise where the Prime Minister wanted the district magistrates to speak, that can be a political debate. You are entitled to do so. But to say that this function or whatever, this program where DMs were supposed to speak, all other DMs spoke, and just because the Chief Minister wanted to, thus the West Bengal DM should not speak. How right is this?
Again, I will say this to you, Sanketji. A DM from, I think, North 24 Parganas was present, not the South 24 Parganas was present there. But even if he would have spoken to the Honorable Prime Minister, he could have given a consensus about the district that he is representing. But my Chief Minister wanted
we spoke to sources in the central government, and Mr. Riju Datta, they say that was the idea. The idea was to get the experiences from districts. That was the focus of this meeting. The focus was not to speak to chief ministers. Now you would get those platforms also. But right now the idea was to speak to DMs. Yeah, so you heard Riju Datta saying that when the chief minister was there, she could have given a much better perspective about what ails West Bengal. What was the point to narrow it down to just a district magistrate?
देखिए, हर एक जो मीटिंग होता है उसका एक प्रोटोकॉल होता है, और वो प्रोटोकॉल यहाँ पे इस मीटिंग के यहाँ पे इसलिए था कि सारे डीएम बोलेंगे, ऐसा नहीं कि सारे बीजेपी स्टेट को लेकर ये मीटिंग हुआ। तो ममता बनर्जी जी का ये जो आज का जो व्यवहार है, आज का जो आचरण है, ये नया नहीं है, वो हर वक्त ऐसा करती है। आज भी वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ पॉलिटिकल लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं। पॉलिटिकल लड़ाई तो उन्होंने लड़ा, हम लोगों ने, पश्चिम बंगाल के लोगों ने उनको मैंडेट दिया, हम उस मैंडेट को स्वीकार करते हैं। लेकिन ये अतिमारी के समय जब लोग मर रहे हैं, इस समय उनका राजनीति का क्या जरूरत है? एक्चुअली ये उनका एक फ्रस्ट्रेशन है। करप्शन के लिए उनका 4 नेता मंत्री अभी जेल में जा चुके थे, इसलिए वो जो लड़ाई है वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ लड़ रही है। आपने देखा दिल्ली के अरविंद केजरीवाल जी है, ओडिशा के नवीन पटनायक जी है, वो लोग कैसे करते हैं कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के साथ एक होकर वो काम करते हैं ये अतिमारी के समय। और ममता बनर्जी सारे वक्त अतिमारी के वक्त
person from the BJP to shower and heap praises on Arvind Kejriwal. Congratulations to you, because you know this is a great win for the federal structure right now, because you have an axe to grind against Mamata Banerjee. So Arvind Kejriwal is an apple of your eye. But Devjani Bhattacharya is also with us. Would you like to come in? You wanted to say something.
Yeah. Actually, I will say from the perspective of a neutral observer staying in West Bengal, today's meeting of Prime Minister with District Magistrate was actually in congruence with federal structure. Rather, it was congruent with micro-federalism. He wanted to talk to district magistrates. Before that, he spoke to doctors and said that maybe from the experience of individuals, we can get certain very important clues of handling the pandemic properly and effectively. So the objective was to talk to district magistrate. It is very much possible that by maybe one district magistrate of one district could give such an important feedback which would be effective, which can be converted into action for all over India, and which could help the pandemic control. So that was the idea of Prime Minister.
Ms. Shikha Mukherjee, how do you look at this? Number one, the objection of Mamata Banerjee that this is not the time to speak to district magistrates, and then the BJP saying, yes, Ms. Devjani, I'm going to come back to you, just one moment.
Yeah.
And Shikha Mukherjee, the Bharatiya Janata Party turning around and saying that what is wrong if the Prime Minister wants to speak to district magistrates? This is nothing but micro-federalism.
Well, Mike, this is not the time for micromanagement. What the Prime Minister needs to do is macro management, and I think I agree with Riju that when even the Supreme Court, the Allahabad High Court, is talking in terms of the total chaos and the confusion that has prevailed, in terms of managing the surge, and it may have been a vertical surge, but managing it 1 month, it's exactly a month since the Supreme Court made its observations about the oxygen crisis. The Supreme Court had to set up a national task force. The Supreme Court has had to intervene with an audit of oxygen. Does this not point to the fact that this is not the time for macromanagement? It is the time for macromanagement, and not micromanagement. And this is kind of nano-management. 7 district magistrates from 5 states. What on earth is going on? The Prime Minister does not have the time. I beg your pardon, but the Prime Minister ought not to have the time to talk to 7 district magistrates and deliver platitudes about social distancing, vaccination, and the rest, which has to be done by somebody.
Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Datta, Ms. Bhattacharya, as well as Mr. Chattopadhyay, thank you very much for joining us.